Steve in Riverside. Hi, you're on the fourth hour.
Hi, how you doing?
Well, thank you for asking. Are you just making small talk, or you're really interested? Do you really want to know?
It's called respect.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Well, the reason I called
So he didn't want to know.
He didn't want to know.
No, he
it was just-
respectfully said it without
respectfully
wanting an
said,
answer.
Hey, how are you doing? And we're like, well, I mean, if you really want a discussion about that, we could get into it because I've got some lower back
that's
issues.
Common courtesy, that's all.
He's not. Okay, he's not
the
interested.
word-
Common courtesy. The way you have common courtesy is to ask a question and not care about the answer. That's how you decipher what common courtesy is. That's the courtesy that is common, and I will agree on that.
All right, go ahead, Steve.
All right, I'll be nice. Okay.
Sorry, Steve.
Reverend Perryman is who I want to talk about. He has his latest book is called Whites, Blacks, and Racist Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to give you just a little bit about him. In the late 80s, he's famous for creating a peace between gang members. And then they started a program getting gang members to go to college. Well, what happened was the gang members came to him as they start paying attention to politics and things. He said, who should we vote for? He goes, well, you should vote for Democrats. They've done more for black people. Well, then they came back to him and they said, hey, we're having a debate, and you've written 22 books, and we know you like researching. Can you give us some information on what they've done for us? He goes, yeah, I'll be delighted. Well, then he got them back together, and he goes, hey, I'm wrong. I have documented, and they haven't done anything from us since this country started. And in fact, I have nothing but documentation that they've done everything against our people. And so he put this book together, and in the book it documents all the details. Like, for example, in 1854, the Republican Party started as an anti-slavery party, and he names all the things that they've done for us, for them, and all the things that they've fought and died for the blacks, where the Democrats did the opposite. And here you got a credible man who's well respected, and he speaks really well. You know how some writers, when they can use regular words, but a brain surgeon or a silly guy like me can both respect him. Well, he's one like that. And here you got a guy who, with this information, this book is worth its weight in gold.
That sounds good. What's it called again, Steve?
Whites, Blacks, and the Racist Democrats. But it's all documented, and it's ugly facts for the Democrats. And all we need to do is get that out there where a black Democrat read that and go, what? I've been played all these years, and the facts are really awesome, and it just explains, details. It's really worth reading.
And they really have done a good job over the years, Democrats, in claiming that ground. I mean, there really is no reason for 85 to 95% of African Americans to be voting for Democrats. I mean,
for sure.
You look back at the history, and really, you're right. I mean, the Republican Party has done a lot. I mean, if you just... It's not based on that. I don't know what it is. A friend of mine says he thinks the entire thing, not the entire thing, but the vast majority is based on support or opposition to affirmative action. Meaning that is the defining policy that African Americans look at and say, you're not treating me fairly because you will not support affirmative action. Now, of course, obviously conservatives see that completely differently. But I mean, that might be it. I don't know. I mean, what can you think? If you had to name one policy, Pat, would you say there's a better example?
I was just thinking this morning that we have so much in the conservatives and the vast majority of the black population have so much in common.
Yeah,
I don't understand.
Social
and you're right,
issues are generally, I mean, the African American population is generally socially leaning conservative.
Yes.
No one likes the high taxes. I mean, you can pull that forever and find that there's very little support for that.
I suppose there's a perception among blacks that Republicans favor big corporations over the little guy or the poor people.
Yeah, I mean, there might be part of that.
I don't know.
I don't know, but I think it might be more of that sort of assistance from the government in one form or the other for whatever reason, and obviously, the way the population is broken up, it's many the higher population in inner cities, which are lean Democrat anyway, and so there's a lot of. But I don't know. I don't know the real reason for that. I mean, because certainly they tried to paint conservatives as racist, but really, did that work that well? Is there no basis for it?
And you even go back to the civil rights movement, which they always give credit to Lyndon Johnson for.
Right.
It was the Republicans in the Congress that helped get that passed when there was a Democrat filibuster led by former KKK member Robert Byrd.
Who's still in office.
Still.
The guy trying to filibuster the Civil Rights Act is still in office, and he's a Democrat.
Look it up. As recently as 1964, when the Civil Rights Act they continually refer to, it was pushed through by some minority leaders in the Republican Party. And yes, Lyndon Johnson signed the legislation. But by then there was so much pressure and there was so much consensus that it was the right thing to do. He had to. I'm not saying he was necessarily opposed to it, but you can't give the credit to the Democrats even for the civil rights legislation in 1964. And yet they get the credit for it. And they try to claim the credit for it all the time.
It's very odd. It's a very odd phenomenon. Because I always say the best piece of spin in political history is the term pro-choice, because it's so off topic, and how that thing stuck as an argument for abortion is an amazing piece.
Should not have let it.
No, and it's an amazing piece of political gymnastics. I mean, it's impressive if you look at it from that. I'm in the internal bowels of Washington strategizing. I don't think there's ever been a better piece. I think this is on that level though. It's not maybe not a specific term or anything, but there's just no reason to believe that Democrats help black people. You just look at the cities that they run. They're impoverished at a level that is unseen in any other sector of society. I mean, the cities such as Cleveland and Detroit and Philadelphia and Washington D.C. and on and on and on and on. These cities have been run by Democrats in the area between 80 and 100% of the time. In most cases, it's 100%. There has, in the last 40, 50 years, the Republicans have had no chance to run these cities. None. And they just continue to wallow in poverty over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And yet, for some reason, Democrats are able to convince the African-American population that they're helping. I don't see the help.
It's amazing.
I mean, remaining in poverty for half a century is not assistance.
No, it doesn't seem helpful to me.
No.
It doesn't seem helpful.
It doesn't to me either.
Let's see. Mark in Florida, you're on the fourth hour. Hi.
Hey, guys.
Hey.
What's going on, Mark?
Okay, John Huntsman Sr.
Yes.
I have a personal challenge for Glenn. Glenn needs to convince him to serve as the president.
Really? John Huntsman for president, huh?
And also, Glenn, like he just mentioned John Huntsman on the radio probably an hour ago, 45 minutes ago, something like that.
Yeah.
But he needs to mention his book, when he mentions his name, Winners Never Cheat.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I just took my dad to lunch a couple days ago. He said, Mark, where'd you get this book? I said, well, I was watching a rerun of Glenn on a weekend, and he had Huntsman on there.
Mm-hmm.
And I played it back, and I got the name of the book, ordered the book. He says, this is a great book. I'm gonna buy a bunch of these copies, give them out to all my people.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what Glenn did here. He bought a big box of them when that book came out, and he gave it away to everyone on the staff.
Yeah, man. I think Reagan was 69 when he went into office. Huntsman right now is 73. So hey, we're in the ballpark here.
Yeah.
Yes, I was going to say that is an issue because he's 73 now. He will be 75 in November of 2012.
Right.
He would be the oldest president ever elected.
Yeah, and I certainly know that he has the character to. I mean, there's no doubt about that.
There's no question. About that.
But I will say I don't know his politics.
Thanks,
he's never been a political guy, at least. As far as when Glenn's talked about him, he's never discussed. Well, he loves this policy or this policy, but he just talks about being honest. He talks about standing up and doing it yourself. I mean, he certainly seems like he's conservative because of those two things. The honesty one, I guess, could in theory be anybody. But I mean, as far as the, kind of stand up on your own 2 feet, pull yourself up in the boots, that's definitely him.
Definitely.
And but I don't know. I don't really even know his politics.
I think he's pretty conservative. And I would vote for him in a heartbeat. I can tell you, he would never consider running. But
right,
I'd absolutely vote for John Huntsman. In a second.
I will say, though, I think that there's an opening to run a billionaire at vice president, because then you could fund the thing yourself. Unlike, like Ross Perot, did pay for himself, but he wanted to be the guy. And really, he was never the greatest. He did
wasn't a great orator.
No,
for one thing.
And also, I didn't agree with a lot of his policies, but still,
Right.
he was, a guy who was able to do that.